Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Omori. We'll be exploring the rest of the other world this time, so buckle in. We got some side quests to do. Not that many, but
So you said Otherworld, and I always think of Final Fantasy X when I hear that.
One of the things I want to compliment Omori on is that it does a very good job of disguising that distinctive RPG Maker art style I mentioned last part, which is like not something that I see a whole lot of. This is like, I would like to see RPG Maker games use a different style of sprite than the frickin' unimaginative quasi 16-bit style bobbleheads.
Well, I mean, we were talking about this, I think, in one of the first parts, where it seemed like the only RPG a lot of RPG game devs ever played was Earthbound. So they just made their own Earthbound.
Well,
variants.
It's either Earthbound or Final Fantasy VI. Like, everything.
See, I'd rather be 6 because I'm biased.
Well, yeah. But you see, just once, every now and then, I'd like someone to maybe ape Phantasy Star a little. But,
Phantasy Star isn't real. You made that up.
I kind of like Phantasy Star's particular art direction. Maybe not so much the exact version of it that they had back in the 16-bit days, but I like the idea of like more humanly proportioned sprites and comic.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because wasn't Phantasy Star essentially Chrono Trigger with less shading? Off the top of my head. It's been a while since I've seen a Phantasy Star game.
It's hard to say it like that since Phantasy Star predates Chrono Trigger by a lot.
Yeah.
It basically diverged into its own art style because Phantasy Star 1, the game that kicked it off, was a Master System game, and its only competition was like fucking Dragon Quest, So it was very much doing its own thing rather than looking at 10 billion other games in the same genre and thinking, everyone likes this one particular style of chibi art design on their sprites. Let's do that again. So it had its own sort of, it had more realistically proportioned field sprites. And for story presentation, it did a lot of like comic book cutscenes. I call them comic book cutscenes, but because for want of a better description. But there'll be like little anime panels that pop up showing the characters in more detail. I guess you could compare it to something like Ninja Gaiden. But it's charming. And I kind of wish they had done more with that, but the last game we got was on the Genesis because all the RPG fans went to Super Nintendo.
So my thing with what I'm looking at now is that in any other game, I would critique the graphical style because I think it's just a little too simple. Like with an RPG, specifically my taste, I like both the character sprites to be vivid, very expressive, and the backgrounds to elicit a similar response. But this game does make up for it with all the other aesthetical choices and the character portraits and tampering with entering different emotional states. I think does enough to carry the simple graphical
You
style.
can see that RPG Maker jank coming in whenever they try to do a diagonal looking path to make things look more visually varied. You have to zigzag your way through.
That's something I would immediately adjust to, though, because we grew up with so many grid-based RPGs.
Yeah, I know. It's just this is the kind of visual this is the kind of layout you would expect of Mother 3, Earthbound, Chrono Trigger, that kind of stuff. But those games all had diagonal movement. So, yeah. Come to think of it, didn't the first Mother game also have diagonal movement of a sort?
Yes, it did.
It was a very locked-in diagonal movement that only went in a straight line, but it was...
You had 8-way direction in that game. Which that for nothing was it's not something you saw very often around that era.
Yeah.
At least I don't think you did.
Yeah.
Because I don't. The only other RPGs I played around that time was Dragon Warrior and Final Fantasy.
It was a lot easier to program in 4-directional movement for everything. And sometimes the games that did go out of their way to have diagonal movement would only have diagonal movement for the player. Oh, you can tell this designer has played Mother 3.
But I have no idea what you're talking about.
Wait, is that Takayona? Is that a play on that Japanese demon?
I think so.
Oh, the really tall lady with the hat.
Takaona, I think her name is.
Okay, I never actually understood the name. I just know her as really tall lady with the hat.
I only know this because I looked it up for a writing thing, but it's like, is that her? Is she on vacation?
It's like monsters gotta take vacations too. Have you never played Undertale?
We got a 5-leaf clover. It brings us good luck.
Speaking of Undertale, like, what's the development timeline on this? This came out recently, right?
A year or two ago, it took about 8 years to come out.
8 years to come out
From announcement to
okay,
when it got released.
that kind of you probably did say that like in the last session, but that kind of baffles me because I never played this game, but I thought this game was released for years already. But apparently, it's because people have just been talking about it because of its long development time.
We're doing the Link's Awakening thing. I love it.
Oh boy.
So we're gonna find a feather that lets us jump like a really piss poor platforming hero.
Yeah, and
Sadly,
it's a separate item that you have to equip. Imagine not having a jump button. No, I'm not letting that go. Shut up. Saber coming. Stop it. Don't do it.
We're gonna get to the point soon where Breath of the Wild people are gonna start referring to Twilight Princess fans as Zelda boomers or some shit.
Aren't they doing that now though?
I think we're still in the area where it's a Link to the Past fans that are the boomers.
You think so? I don't know. The Twilight Princess was fucking. I mean, in
20 years
in
ago.
2 years, Twilight Princess is gonna be 20 years old.
Huh, you're right. I don't think that's quite old enough to be a boomer, but
That's pretty old though. That's 2 decades. Fuck, Twilight Princess turning 20 in 2 years.
Yeah, the Wii will be 20 years old in 2 years.
Oh my god.
Kids who had that as their first console will be going to college.
Wait, no, kids that had that as their first console going to college, they should be done college by now because they'd be in their mid-20s.
Depends on how old they were when they got it.
I will applaud this game for introducing a lot of fun variety into the standard JRPG formula. That's a thing that the genre is kind of struggled with for a little while, to be honest. It's part of the reason that the genre shifted so hard away from turn-based, because there was a perception that all turn-based RPGs were kind of like pulling a very limited number of design choices out of the same design hat, and to an extent, it was kind of true, only because everyone missed the unique ones. But Final Fantasy sort of took over the world for a while, and it's hard to get a lot of like hyper unique design evolution out of a series that is designed to be very casual.
Well, that was something I wanted to ask earlier, but outside of the RPGs that you are already a fan of, in my case, it's Final Fantasy, how often do you guys find yourself going off the cuff to play an RPG from a completely different franchise on a whim? Or do you basically just keep it to recommendations or what's the popular game to play right now?
Well, I mean, my RPG tastes cover like a much wider spectrum than a lot of people, so a lot of the time, actually, there's a GOG game that's sort of a Western-made JRPG. What's it called?
Final Fantasy.
That's not Final Fantasy. It's got this sort of like Donkey Kong Country-esque sort of rendered sprites thing going on. Septericor, I think it's called. And I was really interested in that. The only reason I haven't played through it is because the last time I did, which was a while ago to be fair, GOG has probably fixed it by now. The last time I did, it needed a goddamn fan patch to even run it all on modern hardware, which, is a problem. But it's a thing. But yeah, I think it's Western made. But it also has a very distinctly like sort of quasi anime aesthetic to it. That well, I say quasi anime because it's like it's that weird old 90s style you see in stuff like Resident Evil 2 that's sort of caught in between live action and anime that you would see in the FMVs specifically. This game came out. If GOG will let me view in store, thank you. This game came out in 1999. Developed by Valkyrie Studios or Topware Interactive, because this page does not clarify who the publisher and who the developer is. That's a bit of an issue.
Made by people.
But it's like, it's got this weird sort of visual mishmash between what I expect of a JRPG and what I expect of like a Western RPG from the late 90s, like pre-rendered backgrounds in an isometric style. But it's also got like a turn-based combat system, which is cool. I like it. I wish I'd had more time to play it, between it not working and losing interest by the time I found the solution. But yeah, so I do that kind of thing a lot.
Having the time to play it, though, isn't there like the age-old fucking thing of why we don't play more RPGs? It's like, fuck, man, I only got so much time to play one.
That was a long-winded answer. It's your turn, Ryan.
Occasionally, I will try an RPG on a whim, mostly if it has good reviews or like that's going around the talk of the town sort of thing going on. So, occasionally, like I learned about Persona and SMT that way.
Is there any time where
day,
like you don't play something because it's like everyone else is talking about it right now? Like I don't really feel like playing this. I feel like I have nothing to experience, or because everything's been spoiled for you because people don't know when to shut up.
Well, pal.
I've mercifully avoided all mention of PAL World. I know that there is a fiasco related to it, but I do not care.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. Like, I don't care about the game. I have a few friends that are completely enamored with it. You know, whatever, they're having fun. I'm not gonna say you shouldn't be enjoying this.
Look, I already have an unplayed Pokemon like on my Steam list. Okay, it's called Koromon. That's gonna take up my time for far too long whenever I get around to it. So, PAL World just came at the wrong time, good or bad.
Yeah, it's just to me, it's outside of folks that are already playing it. It's just not a game to have a conversation about because there's a lot of fucking misinformation just being put out there from a lot of petty fucks. It's like, listen, it's like, I understand, I get it to some degree, but now we're just making shit up for the sake of helping your argument, and that only makes you look like an asshole. So come on.
I'm not even sure why anyone would want to make that argument in the first place, but I don't care enough
because it has Pokemon in it. I mean, that's literally it. Like, I don't want to get too deep into it because that's a bear I don't want to poke, and I'd rather that bear just die.
They just want to say that the Pokemon killer isn't a Pokemon killer? Is that what you're saying?
It's a lot. But either way, like, I'm not interested in the game, but if you're playing it and honestly God having fun, I hope you keep having fun. I just don't care.
It's not even like this is the first Pokemon like to roll around. Come on, guys. Well, anyway, setting that aside.
So when's the commentary run?
I'm not recording it.
I'm not recording it either.
Cowards.
I might record Koromon. I might record Koromon, and then we can talk about Power World there. I like the wormhole. Although I do have another interjection on something Ted said. Even if the developer was a native Japanese speaker, it is conceivable that in Japan, people would generally know enough about English to know what a wormhole is. So I'm not sure there would even need to be a Japanese equivalent for the pun. It's one of those like words that comes up a lot in fiction, and contrary to popular belief, they do consume Western fiction over there, just kind of like the same way we consume Japanese fiction. So, yeah, that's a thing. And Ted is not here to answer me.
So who's the real coward?
All right. This is tedious.
Yes, it is.
I don't remember Wild Arms ever doing something quite this annoying. Like sometimes.
This is why I mentioned Mystic Quest, because Mystic Quest will have you do this exact same shit.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, it would. Although I don't remember off the top of my head any moment where there was a line of logs you had to chop that was quite this long.
It wasn't logs, it was mushrooms.
Mushrooms. Oh. Wait, what did you do with the mushrooms?
Chop them down.
Oh.
They're in your way.
That,
and there was a lot of them in the way.
That makes no goddamn sense. I have a feeling that this is one of those cases where there's a moment in a game that is intentionally inconvenient for effect. Yep. I went to all this trouble to isolate myself from society.
Wait, that was just for a gag?
Yes.
It's like, what the fuck? Those are my favorite traffic cones.
Well, you know, Omori would empathize with that character. I'm just going to say. That is a character-accurate roleplay moment. I mean, you didn't roleplay it, Omori did, but, you know.
Holy shit. What kind of gamer setup is this?
TV girl. This is...
Why do you need fucking 38 monitors?
Well, John, obviously, they need that 20,000K multi-monitor, curved monitor setup.
It's because they make up your mind.
For their Skyrim VR game that they're going to be viewing through a headset anyway.
Of those three that we just saw on that list, which one of you guys are more likely to use? I'd probably say Doohickey.
Thingamabob.
Thingamabob? Yeah, that's pretty fun.
I tend to default to Doohickey myself. Just the word that I heard more often growing up.
Whatchamacallit I used to say a lot. My friend Matt loves saying that when he's trying to recollect something, and I was like, I love that candy bar. But it's also, can you recollect what we were talking about before already? I'm tired of you saying it.
I do say that a lot too, yeah.
Whatchamacallit?
Yeah.
Whatchamacallit.
Or what's his face, or what's his smell.
What?
Okay, what's this enemy called? Nope. Don't get to see it.
It was a Doom box.
Did you cut past that, or was that...
I cut past it.
You cut past it. Okay, I wasn't sure this game did the Earthbound thing I was talking about earlier.
No, it doesn't.
I can tell you another game that does that, Persona 5. Of course, Persona 5 invented the insta-kill, as we all know.
Did it? It also invented
Yeah.
Tokyo. What people tell me.
It invented the Shibuya Crossing.
Yeah.
The fun thing about that is that you might not even know that it's a function that's in the game for a while because, like, it's locked to a specific character, and you have to get high enough in their confidant to unlock it. But it's a thing Ryuji can do, and it makes grinding for XP laughably easy. It's basically the reason that I ended my first playthrough of Royal on level 99.
Jesus Christ.
Well, it's not that big of an ask in Persona 5's case because the game sort of expects you to at least reach the 80s. It kind of like designs its difficulty curve a bit steeper than a lot of JRPGs do. I say it designs its difficulty curve a bit steeper, but I really just mean its leveling curve. The game is not that hard. What?
Throw stuff at him in here. Strange sound.
Is that a Scarecrow?
Scare throw.
Scare throw. Okay, so you just throw random sports balls at it. That's a tennis
Yes, and he makes
ball.
it.
That was a soccer ball. They say you can stop now.
No.
This situation makes so little sense it made me sneeze.
Wait, why did it make a fucking shutter sound? This is so confusing. I need the context.
He's just here to be a thing.
That's something a lot of RPGs tend to pass up on in more modern times, is just things that you can mess around with, you know? It's difficult to express just how fun it can be to just have stuff that you can do for the sake of doing it. And this goes all the way back to the old school RPGs like Ultima 7. Do you know that one of the features in the Ultima games is that you can bake bread? It's a really simple operation that just involves combining a bunch of items with a bread maker or some shit. But you can make bread and eat it. You can make poison bread and feed it to Lord British to kill him and make the game unwinnable.
Nah, it's just a different ending.
Well, like, and that was the worst game in the series that did that. Even that game had that kind of effort in it. But, like, being able to just mess around with things in the game's world kind of makes it feel a little bit more like a world, you know? Okay, so we're done in here?
I want the story of the kid who threw the fucking desk at this guy. Like, goddamn, like, desks are not light.
He threw a desk? What?
Yeah.
Did you just throw a CD? I think I saw you throw a CD.
I think you just mentally broke Mr. Scarecrow. Like, because for a while, this guy was bitching. He was like, hey, can you stop? And then after a while, it's like, gets angry and angry. And then he just like, you know what? Actually, fucking just keep throwing at it. You destroyed this man, Ryan.
You know what this reminds me of? The rocket launcher in Fallout 3. It's a gun that shoots junk. You load it with junk items that you pick up all around the place, and it shoots junk at the enemy. Always does a set amount of damage, so heavier junk is not worth keeping around. But, you know, it's a fun physics gun that doesn't actually use physics to calculate its damage, so they kind of cheated. But, you know, seeing the kid throw CDs and shit kind of made me think of that. Except the way my brain works, it made me think of someone modding the Fallout 3 rocket launcher into Stardew Valley as a weapon that you could use in the dungeons. Because, god damn it, you fish up a lot of trash in that game. Okay, let's see.
So we found one of the things we needed for TV Girl. We need to find the other two.
Well, was the Scarecrow related to, well, Scarethrow related to any of that? Or was that just for fun little dialogue?
Just for yucks.
Just for yucks. Okay, because I wasn't laughing. I was actually feeling pretty fucking bad for that Scarecrow. You're a monster, right?
We gotta do Hickey.
That brings up another RPG question. When you're playing RPGs, do you do, like,
things,
silly, ridiculous, evil things for the laughs, or do you generally try to be a good person in universe?
Yeah, I do a couple of genocide runs on Undertale myself every once in a while.
Well, I mean,
silly little things.
Outside of going back to see what the other thing does, you know, on your first playthrough, what is your natural inclination?
Talk to everybody multiple times to see if I get any extra dialogue. Like there are times where I will like engage in conversation. I'll keep prompting dialogue until it loops, and then after something in that area or close to it happens, I'll go back and talk to everybody else to see if anything's changed.
You would fucking love the Trails series, my man.
No, I wouldn't, because I've watched Nora play a bunch of them. Well, at least like skim past it at the very least. And listen, everyone's got their tastes and shit like that. I know it's more about the story and all that entails, but there's something about Trails that looks so fucking vanilla to me.
Really? Huh.
And I'm saying this as a Final Fantasy fan. I understand, but like I don't know. Trails doesn't quite hit the niche that I think I'd like in an RPG.
Falcom does have a kind of classical RPG style to most of their games, so
there's also a lot of Trails games for what I understand.
There are, yeah. And it's also a very interconnected series, so the starting points are thin on the ground.
I'll never forget watching Nora finish one of them, and like we're in a Discord call with other friends, and I said, "Hey, congrats, you're done." And then one of our other friends just starts laughing maniacally, and it was very unsettling. Like, oh, I guess she's not done because there's like 16 other games. I think I'll pass for now. Thank you.
But which ending did you see? Did you see the final boss, or did you see the final boss?
I don't recall what the boss was. I don't even recall what Trails game it was.
If it was like if it was like Cold Steel 2, for example, there's a final dungeon and a final boss, and then you go back to the school and play for another 5 or 6 hours, talking to everyone, catching up with all the NPCs. It's very satisfying to catch up with all the NPCs at the end of a war. And then you go through a final dungeon with a final boss that openly admits that you will get nothing for defeating it other than the satisfaction of having done so.
Right. It's okay. That's fine.
It's such an awkward ending, but it is less an ending and more of a mid-series send-off to the old cast before the next game brings in a whole new group of characters. So it makes some narrative sense. It's just very awkward in terms of game structure.